Boland. I'm the VP of Services for ISKME, and I'm joined today by Elizabeth Simpson, the Distance Learning Technology and Accessibility Specialist for the North Carolina Community College System. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about all of the different things that need to happen to have a successful OER program. There's so many pieces to this puzzle. So we're going to talk about some ways that some organizations, statewide organizations that we've worked with that have done this work and what they have done to be successful. I'd like to start by introducing you to my organization, which is called ISKME. That stands for the Institute for the Study of Knowledge Management in Education. We are an education nonprofit, and we were founded in 2002 by our CEO, Elisa Petrides, really looking to address issues of access and equity in education. As our name suggests, we started as a research institute doing social science research around how teachers perform continuous improvement on curriculum over time. And through that work in 2007, we launched OER Commons, which is our public digital library of open educational resources. I joined ISKME about 6 or 7 years ago, and my role was really to shift ISKME from being purely grant and philanthropically funded to offering a more sustainable services model. So now, in addition to the research that we continue to do, we also offer services around OER, including the development of digital libraries, professional learning, and curation of OER. I can figure out how to work the slides. This will be great. Okay. So in those last 6 to 7 years, we've been servicing OER initiatives around the world and around the country. We work in over 40 states, both in K-12 and higher ed. OER Commons, again, is our flagship public library of OER, and part of that library are our hubs, where we partner with organizations. I've listed some of our partners here. They have both hubs on OER Commons and what we call microsites, which are standalone instances of the platform. So we've worked with a lot of great organizations in the South, in Tennessee, in Alabama, North Carolina, Louisiana, and Virginia. This work has always, the folks that work with us really help us create a more vibrant community of OER, bringing in the resources that they're developing, curating and evaluating content, really making it a better space for everybody in the field. Today, I want to talk about 2 initiatives. They are OER Texas and openNCCC. Elizabeth is going to talk a little bit about the openNCCC project, and I'm going to talk a little bit about the Texas project, but I wanted to share kind of an overview with you here before we jump into that. OER Texas is a digital library of OER designed for Texas Higher Ed Coordinating Board. And what I appreciate about the work they've done in Texas is they've really kind of started with their landscape study to understand what the landscape of OER uptake was across the state. And after getting that data and learning so much about what's happening in the state, they developed their digital library, OER Texas. Then they did a follow-up landscape study. And now we're really in a space of doing some additional research around gap analysis in where there's OER and where there isn't, doing professional learning, really trying to get people into the platform and into their OER initiatives and support them. We're also developing a statewide playbook. So really a lot of exciting work happening in Texas. Liz is going to talk more about openNCCC. I always feel like I'm saying extra C's, but we did develop a digital library for them as well. They had a standing existing repository, the NC Lore, that we migrated over. They've done terrific work developing their communications and outreach planning, their governance policy, and now we're really starting to dive into some professional learning programs. With that, I'm going to hand it over to Liz to talk about the work that they're doing in North Carolina, and then I will follow with some talk about what they're doing in Texas, and then we'll wrap up this quick session. So thank you all, and Liz, over to you.
All right, perfect. Thank you, Nikki. So I am going to share the link to our
Oh,
my
I'll put some links in chat. I can do
Oh,
that.
perfect.
Yeah.
I beat you for that one. Anyway, so yes, my name is Liz Simpson. I kind of am responsible for most of the day-to-day maintenance of openNCCC. So registrations, group management, communities of practice, acquisitions, that sort of thing. So our goal was to provide the infrastructure for OER content and let it serve as a resource for our system. So
I've lost control of the slides.
No worries. So yeah, we are a community college system in North Carolina. And yeah, so it's this openNCCC serves as our OER platform. So at the moment, we have about 1,000 registered users, and so that's faculty or staff. Students don't get accounts. They can access stuff, but they don't have the ability to edit anything because that would be exciting. We do have an LTI integration set up with the LMSs we support. So Blackboard, Moodle, and Canvas. And the benefit of this is it allows our instructors to directly drop things into their LMS. So students don't leave the LMS and they can read their textbooks or watch their videos, whatever they need to do within the structures. They're not getting bounced around the internet. Something else we're particularly fond of is that we do have a course alignment tool set up. So instructors can align content items with our combined course library. So then other users can see those alignments and see what's useful for them. All right, if you could go ahead, Mindy.
Now I can go to the next slide.
So in terms of outreach, we really just kind of built on a lot of our pre-existing platforms. So like Mindy mentioned, we did have a LoRa beforehand that had a lot of power users. So we kind of built off of that success and migrated those people over. But this secondary initiative is really built off of our distance learning community. So that is a community of practice for our faculty and staff. So in a typical meeting, we have maybe 100 people. There's many, many more people on the listserv and in the group that we built on openNCCC. We have monthly meetings, and it is meant to be a place for my team in the system office to share important system level updates. I'm sorry, my cat is in love with my microphone at the moment. So if you hear some meowing, that is Ms. Louise. Anyway, so we have monthly meetings, we record them and share them out. It's a really good group that we leveraged and marketed openNCCC to. Next slide, please, Mindy. Perfect. So something that we added, so we launched the microsite in December of 2020. So we spent the spring 2021 semester kind of getting our feet under us. And then the following fall, so a little bit under a year before we launched, we began an OER community of practice, based on the wins of the distance learning community. We have monthly meetings during the semester. We have some steering committees set up and some a group in openNCCC, and that allows for a discussion board, collaborative resources, and we have a listserv, but that is external to the platform. So the purpose of the OER COP is to promote new and existing OER, promote it across our system, and to really serve as a warehouse for collaboration. Thank you. And in addition, I host training 2 times a week through our kind of centralized training platform to go over whatever users need to go over. So I have set agendas on a wide variety of subjects. So some of them are mechanics focused. How do I do blank in terms of tools and buttons? And then I kind of couple that with a lot of more pedagogical discussions of curriculum alignment, usefulness. So my background, I'm an instructional designer. That's kind of where my head goes. We also visit our colleges as they request us to speak with departments and campuses about OER and make sure that we are meeting their needs and make sure they're getting access to the resources they need. So we are supporting, so we manage the centralized platform, but if anybody wants to kind of go rogue, that is totally their choice. And we will do what we can to make sure they're being supported in their needs. I think we're good there. Perfect. Thank you, Mindy. So things we're working on is always expanding the collections, and ISKME is great to work at for that. You know, they're always helping us bring in more stuff. We are gently encouraging the use of the platform. We do now, we have government's documentation set up. We spent a lot of time on it. We are very proud. If you are curious and just want to read governance documentation, it is on our microsite at the bottom of the page. And we cannibalized it from other OER platforms, so feel free to cannibalize ours.
I think we call that remixing when you're talking about OER.
All right, that's a technical definition. And kind of the big project probably for the fall of 2022 to spring 23 semester is to get discipline-focused steering committees set up to help guide us in acquisitions. I think that is it for, I forgot about my workshops, my goodness. And starting this fall, we are working with ISKME to present a workshop series. So it's 90 minutes a day for 4 weeks on OER. We really want, the initial purpose is to take people who are kind of fresh to OER and get them set up for success and have them actually working with it and have implementation plans in place. As I know, all of you know that there is sometimes a disconnect between good intentions and the ability to actually launch a project. Now I think I'm done.
You did it. I think that last statement, though, the good intentions and the ability to launch, is a nice segue to talk about the work we are doing in Texas, where one thing that we say at ISKME when we have a new partner coming on to build a hub or a microsite, you know, is that if you build it, they will not necessarily come. So you really do need to do that outreach and make sure that people know about the work that you're doing, about where they can go to find open educational resources, to find trainings around open educational practice, and to really have a space where they can do the work. So I wanted to talk now a little bit about the work we're doing in Texas. Thank you so much, Liz, for sharing about your work in North Carolina. As I mentioned, Texas started with their landscape study, and then they did a follow-up. So this is a little picture here from their 2021. I will put some links in chat in a moment. I'm not quite sure how to do it while I have my slideshow on. But really, this is just a smattering of screenshots to kind of show a little bit about the way that they've been doing outreach and talking to their institutions. So they have done their landscape studies, making a nice sort of longitudinal approach so they can see how things have changed over time as far as faculty understanding and knowledge and about OER, whether they know it's there, have they ever used it, things like that. This year, the Texas Higher Ed Coordinating Board did a project with OpenStax. They did a Creator Fest OER Text Edition. So they have a hub on their site all about that work, about bringing faculty in to create new OER or adapt OER, and the Creator Fest, working with OpenStax. This picture here in the top right, these are some of the groups that we created for the initial training academies that we did in Texas, the OER Advanced Skills, Core Elements, and Creator Communities. We are doing one soon that we call the Resource for the Resource, which is really kind of a train the trainer model. So we're doing all we can to get to faculty, to tell them about OER, to make sure that they're comfortable working with OER, and then to get them ready to talk to other people about it. The last piece here is this San Jacinto College. So we have been working in Texas, developing hubs for different institutions on the OER Text microsite. And this is one example of that. What's been really interesting is that they have basically done these onboarding sessions for institutions to invite them to learn about what a hub is, how they can create their own space on OER Texas, to highlight the work of the institutions, and then really giving them the tools to do that. So the hope is that we can build this out institution by institution as they begin to create their own spaces in OER Texas. So as I mentioned, there's so many pieces of the puzzle to create a comprehensive OER program. And I think what they've done in Texas has been a really great example. They started by doing their research with the landscape studies, and part of that landscape study became a basis for what we're doing now, which is a regional gap analysis. So we're looking to understand what parts of the state have more uptake of OER, which institutions are more invested in it, so that they can then figure out how they want to do outreach in some of those states that are doing a little bit less with OER. Developing the space for OER practitioners to discover OER and to collaborate. That's where we have with OER Texas, and also OER Commons and the hubs on there is another place where folks can do that work. But really giving folks, when I hear a lot, oh, it's hard to find OER, or there's so much out there, but with these digital libraries, we really do what we can to make it easier to find content that has been vetted. The professional learning opportunities, not only do they really, obviously train folks, faculty, librarians, and administrators about what OER is, how to evaluate it, how to create it, how to adapt it. But the way that we do them at ISKME is we also kind of integrate the platform into the professional learning so that the participants kind of develop the skills to use those tools really easily, and understand how they can apply them to their work. This outreach to the institutional OER leads, this is really about those institutional hubs, but we're also doing this statewide playbook that's in development now. So for the state of Texas, we're going to develop this we are developing this playbook that really are the steps. How do you create an initiative in Texas to have it be successful? And we're going to follow that with some academies with different institutions where they can sort of adapt the playbook to their own context and figure out what are their steps, what are they going to do to have a strong OER program. So that is some exciting work that we're doing there. I think looking ahead, we will continue to apply what we find in the gap analysis work. So we're doing gap analysis of workforce courses, so kind of CTE and vocational courses to understand where we need to develop more OER, and also for those high enrollment transfer courses. So a lot of exciting work happening in Texas. We're really, really happy to be partnering with them. That is the end of the show. So if you all have any questions, we would love to answer them, or if there's anything you'd like us to show you in more detail, we can do that too. So please feel free to unmute if you have any questions or comments.
Yeah, absolutely. And we even have 5 minutes left in the session.
You get so worried about it being a short session and then you don't have enough.
It's perfect. It's perfect.
Well, thank you both so much. Does anybody have any questions? I don't see anything in the chat, but if you would like to open your mic and ask, feel free.
I have a question about the ISKME collaborations that are happening. How is it, like with the Texas and with the community college system one, is it something that is initiated by the state or by an institution or by a consortium? Like, how do you get something? I'm trying to think about, like, I know you mentioned Alabama, and we do have an OER hub for the state of Alabama. Mm-hmm. And we have, like, UNA, where I'm at, we have our own hub on the OER Commons. But if we wanted to do like a state of OER survey, like you did in Texas, because that report was phenomenal, by the way. How is that started? Is it generated by education leaders at the state level or consortia or at an individual institution? Like, how does that happen?
So the work that we did in Texas was a collaboration between the Higher Education Coordinating Board, Digitex, and ISKME. So ISKME really ran the research project and developed the survey instruments and then kind of developed the report. So Texas came to us, asking for that study, and then we designed it and implemented it. Does that answer your question?